Hello and welcome to this week's crypto update. Different venue today out in Singapore at Token 2049. Huge event, 25,000 people, huge number of speakers, massive event. A bit more on that in a little bit. But what's been happening in the market itself? Well, we've seen Bitcoin has absolutely gone on a move again. We can see here in the charts, it's gone in nearly a straight line up over the last number of days, hitting over 121,000 in the last few hours. So it's made a big move up, coming from that sort of 108 mark. Very strong move. We can see the same happening in the likes of Ethereum and others. You can see Bitcoin's gone up 10% in the last week. Ethereum's 15. You can see the likes of BNB is 18, Solana 20. So big moves happening. Why is that happening? Well, if we go back to the update, Bitcoin tops 121,000. ETH hits 3-week high amid the US shutdown shuffle. So, of course, the US government has shut down until they agree funding. What has this done? You think maybe risk on assets might go into shock mode. Quite the opposite. Price of Bitcoin and Ethereum are rising alongside stocks, which are also hitting all-time highs, which have had historically gained during similar shutdowns. So, in other words, in previous shutdowns, they've also gained, which is sort of counterintuitive, but that's what's been happening. JP Morgan has come in and given his views on what's going on. He sees Bitcoin hitting 165,000 by end of year on retail-led debasement trade. He says the surge comes from the debasement trade. Everyday investors pour into Bitcoin and gold ETFs as hedges against deficits, inflation, and fading trust in fiat. So basically, what he's saying there is because there's so much debt now in the US system, some people are moving towards. They see the dollar, they believe the dollar is going to get printed. It's going to bring huge liquidity into the market, which is usually very positive for risk on assets, but it's also going to create inflation and therefore reduce the value of the existing dollars. And so people are putting it into other things they trust, like gold, like Bitcoin ETFs, and others, and basically risk on assets in general. Raoul Pal, what has he got to say? He said Bitcoin moves with the business cycle, the ISM, liquidity, and rates. So what he's saying here is that in a lot of people are talking about the 4-year cycle. He's saying it's actually a 5-year cycle now. And what started that in the first place was back in 2021, US government moved their rolling debt from 4-year to 5-year. And that is what Bitcoin has been following, not a cycle within Bitcoin itself, but more the broader macro. And that's why we talk about macro so much here, because there's a direct effect on what we think will happen and when it'll happen. And we can see Bitcoin moves with this business cycle. It's done that historically right throughout. And the ISM appears to be moving towards, 15 plus. And when it goes 15 plus, that's usually positive for risk on assets. And so it looks like that could happen very soon. Of course, it looks like there's going to be huge liquidity added into the system in the not too distant future. We've seen the job reports again, came out weak in the reports today. And that is just another underlining that it's highly likely they're going to reduce interest rates now in the next two Fed meetings. I think it's in the high 90s expectation for the next one, and in October, and the one in December, it's well above the 70s as well in percentage expectation. So it looks highly likely we're going to have those two interest rates cuts. As soon as that jobs report came out, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., ran, because just saw it as that's going to underline the fact that the government are going to have to continue to reduce the rates. So we see the ISM moving positively. Liquidity looks like it's going to get much higher, and rates are being reduced. This is what's creating the liquidity, and Raoul Paul believes we'll see a run from here well into 2026. So we'll see. So yeah, the jobs data came in weak. This is what helped increase the rate cuts chances and lift Bitcoin to 121,000 plus. On other news, and this actually happened while it was announced while we were out here in Singapore at the event, but the Avant SPAC deal aims for 1 billion treasury. This is to go towards Avalanche, the chain Avalanche, and it aims to raise 1 billion to build AVAX treasury and list on Nasdaq in early 2026, offering institutional discounted exposure to the network. In other words, we're just seeing more and more now of these DATs that are being set up to raise huge funds to buy up huge quantities of various tokens. We've seen it with quite a number. Obviously, we've seen in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but there's many others now in like Solana, now Avalanche, and many more appear to be coming to the table. So huge amounts of the tokens being bought up and then locked away on long term. Usually bullish, huge amounts more money coming into the crypto space. On top of that, they're saying you can expect a Solana ETF approval once the shutdown ends. There's many new ETFs approvals expected between here and the end of the year in many chains. So again, just more ways for institutional money to come into the system. And we saw from various institutions, banks, etc., that were speaking out here at the event that it's just going to be more and more. They're looking for more ways of bringing capital into the crypto space, and that can only be positive for the overall asset. And of course, something was mentioned many times. The Genius Act has opened the door for clear regulation that allows this institutional money flow come into the system. But the Clarity Act that's expected to happen before the end of the year will absolutely drive that even further. So it looks like, and from talking to an awful lot of people out here, while how we get there might change, some people think it's a straight line, some people think that it could be very volatile. Some people think we'll have a big pullback now, some things will have it later. But overall, what's consistent is everyone believes that there's going to be a big bull run between now and well into 2026. So yeah, usually hotly anticipated. And when you see all what appears to be the stars aligning in order to make that happen, huge amounts of liquidity coming into the system, huge amounts of money coming in from institutional investor, large family offices, governments into the space. The clarity, the regulatory clarity that's required to allow people to do that, and then you have the likes of the ETFs and DATs and all this other money coming into the space. It really does look like we're heading for that huge altcoin season. Get yourself positioned, make sure you know what you're buying into, and yeah, hold strong, but be prepared to take the money out when the time comes. Have a plan, know what your entry, your exit, and stick to it. Hopefully from that useful. We'll talk to you all in the next one.